Wrong button there.
MVP.
It's into the air, left center field, back it goes! Harper, the swing of his life!
You never get ahead of yourself. As
I know Rennies do every day. It's always been that way for me. Always been a get better mentality every day, grow every day, be a better leader every day, be a better quarterback every day. And when that wrench do, I don't plan on missing no payments. So.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to 3 in the Keystone, episode 80. Al Ryan and Adam Seltzer here along for the ride. And Al, I can't believe that we're having the podcast while this Embiid Jokic battle is going on. I watched the first half, and it was just a tremendous basketball game.
I can't believe we're still running that intro video. I got to change that this week.
That's another thing for sure. But, usually, we got lucky because Tuesday night is, a good night for us all to podcast, but it's also generally a pretty slow night for sports. So usually we're able to get away with it. Just tonight kind of burned us a little bit there.
Yeah, well, listen, it's part of being in the biz, right? I know you got the TV on in the background. I'll be checking some scoring updates here and there, and we'll see what happens. But it's a close game right now with the Nuggets.
Yeah, so if Al asks me some questions and my answers seem completely convoluted and not based on what he says, it's because I'm watching the game in the background and not listening to the word he says. But in addition, Al, episode 80, we are finally out of the hog heaven.
Out.
I mean, there's one obvious one. You try and get cute with it if you want, but it's the Jerry Rice episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be Jerry Rice. I was kind of looking through some of the older names, some of the guys from like our college and high school years. You got like the Plexico Burrises and the Dwayne Bowes and the Donald Drivers and Carroll's own, the Mo Stovall's.
Was he 80?
He was 80 for 1 year. When I looked up the numbers, he wore 80.
I thought he was in the teens.
Yeah, maybe. I think he was in the teens with Tampa.
Yeah, Tampa Bay. That's what I'm thinking about.
Right, but I think with Detroit, he was 80.
Gotcha. And all he does is catch touchdowns. Chris Carter.
I wasn't going to mention him. You know what? Actually, we're wrong about Mo. Mo were 85 in Tampa Bay, so we'll be hearing from Mo again in 5 more weeks.
There you go. Before we get going tonight, I just want to thank everyone who joined the 3K fantasy contest. I'm not going to give our exact numbers for goals, but we far exceeded where we wanted to go with that as far as entries. As for those of you guys in it, we had 78 entries. So fantastic turnout. I think everything has run smooth so far for the first weekend. And for those of you guys who are in the pool and listening, I've sent it on the email. Follow us on social. You see the handles above at 3K Podcast on Twitter, at 3K_podcast on Instagram. We are putting out updates daily on the results on how they're going there, trying to put a little sense of humor into it as well. So we appreciate all the support through that. So, Al, that was all I had for the intro and the announcements. Do you have anything on your end?
Someone on the show is holding it down in the top 5. Am I correct?
Yeah, but we're only paying out the top 4, so top 5 ain't getting you nothing.
But we all know that none of the 3 of us can't finish in the top 4. We know that.
It's so funny because like I'm looking at my entry and I'm rooting for my players, but I know deep down I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, it can't.
I don't want to win the pool.
I just won my March Madness pool last year, as I've said before too. So I cannot win back-to-back pools that I'm associated with being the host of those pools. Yeah, I know how sketchy that looks.
It does look a little sketchy. I do want to add though, we are going to add a prize for the last place participant. So if you're not going to come in the top 4, you might as well tank it out, baby.
Well, I was just revealing. I mean, I guess the
no, it's a surprise. No,
the audio listeners. All right, you'll have to watch the video if you want a little bit of a hint.
Yeah, there you go. So if you're at the bottom and you need to know what you're going to get, maybe you log on to YouTube and check out what's going on there. I guess we've delayed the inevitable as long as we could.
Have we? Because we've been doing this dance for 6 weeks.
It's over. It's finally over. Eagles lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 32-9 to end truly a season of misery. From 10-1, they lose 6 of their last 7. And I guess I thought personally that with the playoffs, they would come out with a little more spunk, a little more energy, but it really was the same show that we got week after week to end the season. It was crazy to me how poorly they tackled and how little it seemed like they cared. What was going to give up 32 points to that Tampa Bay offense? Truly, truly pathetic. Just some quick stats here, Al, before we get your opinion. They got outgained yardage wise, 426 to 276, and they did not convert a third down 0 for 9 or a fourth down 0 for 2 the entire game.
Yeah, despicable. 0 for 11, right? Total.
0 for 11 total.
So I'm look. You want me to jump in now? I get that the players aren't fans like us, and that they're not necessarily giving a shit about what's going on in Dallas the night before. But if watching Dallas get absolutely smacked by the Packers didn't get a little bit of a fire under their asses heading into that Monday night game, I just don't understand how a team can come out so flat, other than what we've been saying again for the last month and a half, that this team has quit. They quit long ago. They gave up. To watch the Eagles face a Tampa Bay defense that blitzed more than half of the time the offense was on the field and not have any answer for that, for the coaching staff to not have any answer for that, for Jalen Hurts, who supposedly is changing plays at the line at a historic rate for him, to not have any answers for that. These guys have all been playing and coaching football their whole lives. They know how to read a blitz and how to answer a blitz. For them not to do it, not throw the ball in the middle of the field at all in that game like they've been doing all season long, for them not to run the ball, like they wanted nothing to do with winning that game. And the safety that Jalen Hurts took, boy, I mean, wasn't that really just like the cherry on top of this season?
It really was. I want to get into that play in particular in a little bit. But here's my question: is like, I understand in basketball when you quit, right? You stop playing defense. You let these guys get open looks. You're not doing these crisp rotations. In football, and I've never played tackle football, are you just like pancake me? Like there's a physicality point of the game where what are you just going to do? Get out there and get trucked or run over? I mean, I guess they were just, you saw a couple missed tackles where there was little effort given. But you got to think to the guys next to you, you got to play for them. Like that effort is just, I can't even, in a playoff game, it just blew my mind how little it seemed like they cared. Like it was unfathomable to me. I really thought they would at least come out with a better effort on that end, and they did not do so.
Yeah, on offense, I think if you're an offensive lineman, those guys have more of a sense of pride, I think, than anyone else on the football field. They're not gonna. They were raised from the time they were young and they played football that they're the guys that are getting beat up. And they're taking hits for their quarterback and they're taking hits for their running back and so on. And I don't think those guys at any point say, hey, we're going to give up, because they know that they're putting their teammates' lives on the line, to be honest, if they're going to give up. But the defense to play the way they did and to take those just terrible angles, that's giving up. To not wrap, to try to tackle guy up by his shoulder pads. That's what giving up looks like. And we saw it.
And Bradbury and Kevin Byard were the top two for sure.
The two of them could kick. They better not be wearing Eagles uniforms next season.
All right, let's play the blame game. We've played it for a few weeks now, but we got to place some blame. So who is to fault first and foremost out of all of this?
More so than anyone else, it's the coaching staff.
No. I'm not taking that from you. You need to be specific.
Who? It's Sirianni. Sirianni's got to go. I've mentally fought this battle now back and forth all day, because I've been thinking, what's the right answer here? And the right answer is that he has to go. He has obviously lost the confidence of this locker room. Jalen Hurts' response after the game, when asked about specifically his confidence in Nick Sirianni, his response was all you had to hear. It was, I'm confident in everyone in that locker room. He did nothing to give Nick Sirianni a vote of confidence in a moment where, if he truly believed in his coach, he would have spoke up and said something.
Well, did you hear the other question too? The other question they asked him, do you think Nick will be back? And Jalen Hurts was, I didn't know he was going anywhere.
Yeah.
That's all he said.
Yep. So if that tells you all you need to know. Look, we've heard it all season long. There's been odd play calling. There's been absence or abandoning of the run, no passes thrown in the middle of the field, no pre-snap motion, lack of blitzing. All these things at the end of the day come back to the head coach. It's a disgrace. It's a failure. He made our strengths weaknesses, and he made our weaknesses the things that just got us trampled by teams like Arizona, New York, and now Tampa Bay. So at the end of the day, this is Nick Sirianni. He has to fall on the sword. And I personally, at this point, I've convinced myself I'll be shocked if Jeffrey Lurie brings him back. He needs to go.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think he is the number one person to blame. And I think the decision that Jeffrey Lurie is going to have to make is going to be an interesting one. And the part that, Nick Sirianni doesn't have anything to stand on, and, we're going to get into the quarterback in a little bit, is Sirianni's strength when he was brought in here was culture and bringing guys together and being a leader and a voice in the locker room. And if that's your strength, like, you got exposed. And I use the analogy, listen, it's easy to be a leader when you're given a Ferrari and you're told to drive the thing as fast as you can down the street, and you just have to push the gas pedal and you're moving like they were last year. It's another thing when you're given a car that all of a sudden the brakes go and the rotors go, and your job is to get that thing up and moving again, and you're not good at doing that. You have to be able to lead from both sides, from both the good and the bad. And it was pretty obvious this year that he couldn't get it back together when the wheels fell off.
Right. And attitude reflects leadership, as they say.
I had that line written down here from Remember the Titans.
They say Remember the Titans, right?
But I think that line reflects more on the quarterback.
Yes.
Which is where I want to get. I think Jalen Hurts is the second most person to blame on this.
Yes.
And again, his play, was it terrible? I wouldn't say terrible, but at the end of the day, they scored 9 points in a playoff game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are a decent defense, but not a great pass defense. They scored 0 points in the first half the week before that against the New York Giants. And his attitude all year has been a problem on this team. And again, I was pointing this out to you when they were winning games. And there's just no way that I mentioned for Sirianni, the reputation he had was, being a leader or bringing guys together, bring a motivator. The Jalen Hurts story all year was he's a leader of men. He leads the team. The guys like to follow him. I didn't see any of that.
No.
And I didn't, from an emotional standpoint, I look at a guy like Baker Mayfield, who doesn't have the talent that Jalen Hurts has, although he's turned it around this year and been a pretty good year. And he's out there and he's emotional and he's a leader and he's, pumping his fist and he's running around. If you're a guy on his team, you want to play for that guy. Yeah. And I understand that that's not everybody's personality. And not everybody can be the rah, rah, rah guy. But if you're a leader, you can't be this stoic, stone-faced guy who gives you nothing whether you're winning or losing. Guys, especially in football, don't ride like that. That's just not how it works.
Yeah, and I agree. Guys have a certain personality, and you don't want him to act a certain way or behave a certain way. That's not truly who he is. But Adam, you and I said it. We said this in September when we looked back at the Week 1 game against New England, and we talked about who was the offensive MVP in that game. And do you remember who we said?
I don't.
Jake Elliott.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just a precursor for things to come with this team. So for 18 games this season, you're telling me that Jalen Hurts, this great leader, this elite quarterback, he saw the same things on the field that you and I saw, that the fans saw, the way that this offense looked inept, the way that the play calling looked absolutely befuddled. You're telling me that for 18 weeks, he wasn't in the NovaCare complex with Brian Johnson and with whoever the quarterback's coach is and with Nick and saying, hey, this isn't working. We need to try this.
Right.
You're doing this. We need to do this. You're telling me he wasn't able to have that voice? Because he obviously didn't. Because we saw the same thing again for 18 weeks, them beating their heads against the wall, just getting worse and worse, getting figured out by teams like the Cardinals. We paid Jalen Hurts, and of course, this is going to make the criticism be a little bit more exacerbated than normal. We paid him $255 million to be an elite level quarterback. Elite level quarterbacks don't lose to the Arizona Cardinals. They don't lose to the New York Giants. And it's not like he doesn't have the talent around him. It's not like he doesn't have the offensive line protecting him. We see guys like Josh Allen, who we compared him to, and we said that Jalen Hurts is on another level now. He's above Josh Allen. Josh Allen stuffed
I didn't say that.
Well, some of us did. He started with guys like Gabe Davis, right? Gabe Davis isn't as good as Devontae Smith. Stephon Diggs wants out of Buffalo. He's always complaining. You got Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes is made to the divisional round again with Rashee Rice, with Marquez Valdez-Scantling, with Loverboy, with Isaiah Pacheco. Look at Lamar Jackson. He's about to win the MVP. Zay Flowers, OBJ, Isaiah Likely. It's not for lack of talent around him. At some point, it's him.
Right. And to your point, this is not a 1-2 week deal. This was 18 weeks, and this had to be a collaborative effort. And if it wasn't a collaborative effort, then that's even more of a sign that Sirianni should go. But if you're paying your franchise quarterback $250 million and he doesn't even at least have the guts to step up in the locker room and say things need to change, or go to the coach separately, privately, and say, here are the things that we need to do, it's not working, then that's not the guy to lead your team. And I'll have a bold statement for you right here. And I thought about this long and hard and did some research. They're not going to win a Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts at quarterback, ever. And here's where I come with this. I did some research, Al. The last 21 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, 20 of them have two things in common. You want to know what they are?
What do you got?
Either they were a Hall of Famer quarterback or will be a Hall of Fame quarterback, or they were on a rookie contract. Ready? I'm going to quickly run down the names for you. Patrick Mahomes will be a Hall of Famer. Matthew Stafford will be a Hall of Famer. Tom Brady will be a Hall of Famer. Peyton Manning, Hall of Famer. Russell Wilson, rookie deal when he won the Super Bowl. Eli Manning, Hall of Famer. Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Famer. Drew Brees, Hall of Famer. Ben Roethlisberger, Hall of Famer. There's two names I didn't list there. One was Nick Foles. And the Nick Foles, you can say, is the exception to the rule, but my argument will be Carson Wentz was on a rookie contract when they won that Super Bowl. And the other name, the only exception to the rule, is Joe Flacco. That's the only guy. I don't think he's Hall of Fame, but he went on a run that was absurd.
Because of how early in Hurts' career we are, and because of what just happened last season, where we were a drive away from potentially tying or winning the Super Bowl, I can't say that.
But
yet.
He was on his rookie contract.
Right.
They were
I know.
to put the pieces around him. Now look at all of the moves they had to make this year to make that contract work. That's why the secondary got taken away. Or that's why they lost all the linebackers. That's why they lost Javon Hargrave, because you have to make pay cuts around your roster to fit the quarterback's salary. And if that's the case, then your quarterback has to be at that next level. And we've seen 3 full seasons of Jalen Hurts. 2 have been very average. Which one was the outlier?
Right. I understand that. And that brings me to someone else who deserves some of this blame. And it's a man that we praised. It's Howie Roseman.
Oh, 100%.
Howie Roseman deserves some more of this blame. He needs to start hitting on draft picks more consistently. The jury's still on some of the recent picks, but Nakobe Dean looks like a certified bust. Nolan Smith, you're telling me he couldn't find more of the field this year? We couldn't get a third receiver this year to help take some of the heat off of A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, a guy with hands, a guy that actually shows up and plays games. All this patchwork defense that Roseman likes to do and create, where he brings in these vets on the cheap. It's not working. There's no voice. There's no leadership. There's no guy that you can rely on when you're watching this team on defense to say, hey, that's our guy. That's our TJ Watt. That's our Micah Parsons. That's our Fred Warner. We don't have that, and we never will with the way Roseman runs this team as far as putting the pieces together on defense.
And when you look at the future of this team, and this is why I also think it's somewhat bleak, is all right, let's break it down positionally. On the defensive side of the ball, I think the defensive line will still be fine. You have, a young Jalen Carter. Davis, I'm not sure where we're going with that. He hasn't popped the way they want him to at this point. But you still have Sweat. You still have Reddick for a couple more years. They're okay there. They have to get better linebackers, so that's a spot they need to upgrade. They have to get better in the secondary. That's a spot they have to upgrade, right?
Yep.
On the offensive side of the ball, DeAndre Swift's a free agent, so you're going to lose your running back unless you re-sign him. The offensive line, you obviously just lost Kelsey, who's retired, an all-pro center. You're probably a year away from losing your all-pro right tackle. You're going to have to sign Devontae Smith to a big money contract.
Yep.
At some point, there's X amount of guys you got to re-sign, and a lot of places you need to improve, and only so many resources to do that with.
Yeah.
So they have to draft better, or then they're really done again, because you have the money that's given to the quarterback, and you're in danger of falling into a Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murray type situation where you don't have enough resources to compete.
Yeah, and what worries me about this defense is when you look at this team from the beginning of the year to the end of the year and you split it into two halves, they either A, ran out of gas, or B, stopped caring. And if it's B, that's a huge problem. That's a massive problem. If you have these guys, this young core that's supposed to be dogs and they're supposed to be championship caliber guys, but they just stopped giving a shit after 8 games. Look at the numbers in the last 8 games. Hassan Reddick only had 3.5 sacks. Jalen Carter only had 2 sacks. Josh Sweat didn't record a sack in the last 8 games of the regular season. That's a problem. When that's where you're resting your laurels on defense, is the defensive line. We know that the linebackers suck. We know that there's holes in the secondary, and you're relying on guys to bite off a little bit more they can chew. People love Reed Blankenship. They love to call him Ed Reed Blankenship. What a cute little nickname. The dude's swimming above water, dude. He's barely keeping his head above water. James Bradbury is a complete disgrace. I don't know if he's had the yips all season after that flag in the Super Bowl, but he's got to go. At the end of the day, Roseman left this team hanging out to dry at the linebacker and safety positions, and he tried to patchwork it together by bringing in Shaquille Leonard and Kevin Byard. And we saw what happened. It was an absolute nightmare. It was a disaster.
But they had to pick a side of the football to sacrifice when they signed the contract, and they sacrificed the defensive side of the ball. That's where they lost a lot of players. And the thought was that our offense will still be able to score 30 points. That's what we talked about when we talked about this team in the preseason, is how good offensively they're going to be. They scored 9 points in a playoff game.
No, but I do think that they also thought some of these guys were going to be difference makers, and they turned out not to be. The N'Kobe Deans, the Keely Ringos, the Nolan Smiths. None of these guys made any type of impact all season long.
Sure, no, I agree with you there. Like that was a huge factor. But when you rely on rookies and younger guys, that's what happens. It's a crapshoot.
Yep. And that's again why, as we're agreeing, this is a lot. Howie Roseman's got to step his game up, man. He's got to nail this draft coming up, and he's going to have some holes to fill.
So, are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future of this football team?
I don't think you could be anything but pessimistic right now with the way this season ended. If you're being optimistic, it's blind optimism at this point. There's literally nothing to hang your hat on watching the way this season ended. Like, what's the positive?
I don't think, and again, maybe I'm exaggerating because of what I'm seeing. I don't think this team finishes above 500 next year.
I'm sure you did as well. I looked at the schedule, right? And obviously we don't know, who they're playing each week. We don't know the times that they're playing. I still have them squeaking out at least 9 wins. They have a friendly home schedule to get Carolina, Atlanta, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, Green Bay, and the Rams outside of the division. That's 3 non-playoff teams. That's the 6 seed and 2 7 seeds. It doesn't get much easier than that.
What's going to happen year to year in the NFL? It's always so different.
I know that. I know teams go up and down and left and right and this and that. But, I mean, just talking about right now, what we know right now, today on January 16th, that's a pretty friendly home schedule.
Sure. I'm fine with you there. I worry about where this team's going to go. They lose, obviously, again, the leadership was a big issue. They're losing their best leader in Jason Kelsey.
Yeah.
And they have to replace him not only in the locker room, but on the football field where he was first team All-Pro center on an offensive line that seemed to be really struggling as well down the stretch. So
I know we're going to get into talking about Jason Kelsey a little bit more, but one more thing I'm going to say for the outlook of this team, though, that we could potentially turn to and say it's a positive for next season. Time heals all wounds, right? Mm-hmm. If they have a solid offseason, a solid draft, solid free agency, when you combine that with the fact that we have a team in the division that is tail spinning just as out of control as we are because of the way their season ended. And that's the Dallas Cowboys. We don't know what's going to happen with them. We don't know if Dak's gone, Mike McCarthy's gone. And then we still have 2 teams that are really in the bottom of the conference in the Giants and the Commanders. So I think in terms of just the division next year, we're still in all right shape.
Sure. I hear you. And Dallas obviously had a tragic loss, but I think they're in a similar situation to the Eagles, where the Eagles are, is they have this contract coming up with Dak Prescott, and they need to make a decision. And they're probably thinking the same thing that I'm saying, where I don't think we can win a Super Bowl with this guy. So why are we going to move forward with him?
Yeah.
I'm not – the contract they gave Hurts last year, they had to give him based on the year he had. Right. I'm just saying there may be some buyer's remorse based on what the overall roster looks like at this point. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is a bad quarterback. Like, he's still a top 12 quarterback in this league at this point. I have no problem with that. I just don't know if he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback with those type of players around him.
Right, but it's the nature of the beast. It's the nature of the way the NFL works. This is how they keep parity alive. because they know, the NFL knows that you have to pay these quarterbacks these amounts that the only way Jalen Hurts is going to live up to that contract is by winning a Super Bowl. It's the only way. So anything less than that, when you sign a guy to $250 million, is an abject failure. But it just makes it, as you've been saying, and as we've been saying this entire segment, it's hard to build a team around that.
Yep, unless they're Hall of Famers.
Right.
Bigger collapse, Eagles or Cowboys?
It's probably still the Eagles. But, I mean, I was talking to a buddy of mine during the Cowboys game, and his reaction was just like almost like apathetic. Like, it's the same thing every year. It's like I knew it was coming, which is crazy because, we're not Dallas fans, so we're not looking at it through the lens of a Dallas fan, but like kind of is the same thing every year, especially when it comes to the Packers.
Yeah, Packers own them. Packers have won more playoff games in that stadium than the Dallas Cowboys have. I would say from the macro sense and the big picture, it's still the Eagles from going to 10-1 to what happened. But from a micro sense, as far as just what happened on the weekend, it's the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, in a 1 week lens, it's definitely Dallas. But over the course of the last 2 months, it's Philly.
All right. And the other thing I didn't mention, I mentioned how pessimistic I am going into next year. It'll also depend on who the coach is. If they bring in a new coach and a new scheme, things can obviously change. But I'm working on the idea that they'll be having the same coach in place. I'd say it's probably 50-50 at this point, but I mean, we should find out shortly.
I don't know potential names in the ring as far as one of these groups go, but just off the top of your head, would you rather them bring in an old guard like a Bill Belichick, like a Pete Carroll, or would you rather them see them go after a young hotshot, which is the names that I'm not really too aware of at this point, like a young hotshot OC or DC from another team that's looking to make that jump to a head coaching position, kind of the way Shane Steichen did, the way Jonathan Gannon did, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so you're thinking about the Ben Johnsons from Detroit, the offensive coordinator, right. The Texans offensive coordinator, et cetera. Right. To be honest with you, usually I'm a big fan of bringing in fresh blood. And the Eagles have done that the last few times, obviously with Sirianni. Peterson was a first-time coach, Chip Kelly, et cetera. But I actually, with this roster, I think a veteran coach, given that they're in win-now mode, might be a better bet. I don't think – it won't be Belichick. I've mentioned on here many times that Howie has a little bit of an ego problem, and that's been that's a fact. I've known that from a good source within the organization, and he's not going to give up player control or any sort of push to have a guy who's ready to throw around and tarnish his opinion by any means. Mike Vrabel is a name that would interest me. I think he's a veteran guy who's proven he could do it. But I would kind of go that route before I went to the young guys personally. But I think a young, fresh name is always intriguing. But I would go with a veteran coach with the roster that the Eagles have.
I'm not enamored with Vrabel. I'm hearing a lot of good stuff about, but like, what has he done?
I mean, he took Tennessee to the 1 seed the 1 year and to the AFC Championship game.
Okay, and that's it, right? I mean, we're talking about getting rid of a guy that just made it to the Super Bowl, and then now we want to bring in a guy that only was able to make it one step further or one step further back.
I like Mike Vrabel as a head coach more than I do. Again, he's been running around with Ryan Tannehill for how many years? He's always had a good defensive team. They've always been tough, even when they haven't had the talent. Again, he comes from the Bill Belichick pedigree as a player.
He also had the luxury of having the best running back in the NFL for his entire tenure.
I understand that.
I don't know. I'd rather go with the young hotshot, but again, I don't have a name for you. I'm sure that we'll be talking more about this.
Ben Johnson's the biggest one that's out there.
Yeah, not Matt Canada.
Who's Matt Canada?
Isn't he the dude from Pittsburgh? Did I get his name wrong?
Isn't the guy got fired?
Yeah, he stinks.
I was going to say, what are we talking about there? All right. I mean, we'll wrap up the Eagles season here. Very disappointing. Anything else before we close it out?
So at this point, recency bias is probably going to, be a little bit of what Steelers fan you don't want on the real fresh channel checking in the chat. No, that was a joke. We do not want any parts of Matt Canada. I can't believe he lasted as long as he did over in Pittsburgh this season. But Adam, I just wanted to get your quick opinion. Most beloved Eagle of all time, is Kelsey going to supplant Brian Dawkins at this point?
Nah, it's still Dawk, but Kelsey's number 2 for sure. We need pay our respects. Jason Kelsey just an all-timer, should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. To become a legend at the center position, you have to do a lot of things right, and he's done everything right since he's become a Philadelphia Eagle. Happy for him, happy for his family. Had the opportunity to meet him a few times, especially down in Seattle at the Polar Bear Plunge. He's a classy guy and just a great guy to be around, and couldn't be happier for him to unfortunately wrap it up the way that he did, but for him to get out.
Yeah, it's very nice as a Philadelphia sports fan when you get a guy who's able to make the impact on the field and off the field, but also get what it means to play in Philly. And Jason Kelce is a guy who got what it means to play in Philly. He's a guy that if you were not from Philly and you just saw him and you watched his interviews and you watched him, you know what I mean, in front of the camera and listened to his podcast, you would say to yourself, what part of Philly is he from?
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm just thankful that he was able to win one before retiring.
Yeah, me too. So shout out to him for just an unbelievable career, and hopefully his his next career, whatever he chooses to do, if he's going to keep the podcast up.
On this show, it's going to be on this show, Adam.
We're going to get him on at some point in time. I got a good feeling about it. And
All
now
right.
that he's got a little more time on his hands. All right, Al. So now that the Eagles season is done, unfortunately, there's still football to be played.
Yeah.
We previewed all the wild card games last week. Time to preview some of the divisional games for this week. And we will start in Baltimore, the first game. I was listening to something earlier. The Houston Texans and the Baltimore Ravens. The Houston Texans are always in that first game. Always.
No respect.
Every year they're in the playoffs. If they made the Super Bowl, they would put them in Saturday at 4:00. They'd move them up. Listen, Baltimore Ravens 9-point favorites, total 44.5. These two teams played in week 1 with Baltimore winning 25-9. Listen, CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans were extremely, extremely impressive on Saturday against the Cleveland Browns. It took them to the woodshed. 2 pick sixes on Joe Flacco to kind of ice that game away. But CJ Stroud, DeMeco Ryans and company, they were awesome. Awesome. And now they'll have a hell of a lot better test as they're facing the AFC favorites on Saturday. But what are your feelings on this game?
You tell me all the time that I hate Ohio State.
You do. You're a big hater.
Dude, I'm with this kid, man. I like this kid. He's turning it around for me. CJ Stroud is a player. And then also on top of that, you got Nico Collins from Michigan, who I equally hate, supposedly. Dude, I think that this team is set up. I know we're talking about what's going to happen on Saturday, but this team is set for the next 5 years. You want to talk about a team that's going to have a rookie deal with their quarterback that has a chance to make some noise now. It's the Houston Texans. Love DeMeco Ryans. Love the youth that this team has. But we can't forget just how good the Ravens have been all year. And it's easy to forget when you watch Houston absolutely dismantle this, Cinderella story Cleveland Browns team with Joe Flacco coming in, leading the way, gunslinging, and Baltimore obviously not playing because they get the week of rest. I still don't think that Houston is ready to beat a team like Baltimore that they have the best run offense in the league. They have a very good run defense. They're very stingy against deep passes, long passes, which Houston was able to get a couple of those in their win this past weekend against Cleveland. I know the Texans aren't scared. I think that's a little bit of ignorance, youth and blissful ignorance, which could be a little trouble for Baltimore. But at the end of the day, I think the Ravens win this game.
You got to give me a score. Are they covering?
No, I don't have them covering. So I have them winning 27-21.
Okay. A couple other additional stats you didn't throw out there. Baltimore has the best defense in the league when it comes to points allowed. They're 4th in offense and scoring as well. They've been, if not the best team all year, I think you have to call them the best team all year because they destroyed San Francisco head-to-head. I've been fading them all year. For some reason, I haven't been in love, and they've burned me the entire season. And I'm going to test them again this coming Saturday. Lamar Jackson's playoff stats is something that we haven't talked about. Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, 1-3 record, 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 68.3 passer rating. I think he's a guy who we talk about all the time in the NBA playoffs. When you put a game plan in place in the playoffs, it's a lot different than a game plan in the regular season. I look at the Houston Texans, and they have a coach in DeMeco Ryans who has a defensive background. And I've got the Houston Texans going into Baltimore and coming out victorious.
Ooh,
Hold the
Upset alert.
horses. I've got the Houston Texans and my boy CJ Stroud in the AFC Championship game with a 23-21 victory. And again, Baltimore's been feeding it to me all year. They probably will again this weekend, but I'm going with the upset. I was really, really impressed with what I saw from Houston.
Cue the Chris soundbite. Don't be disrespectful.
Okay, I'm going to get that. I wish he was on the show tonight after what I said about Mr. Jalen Hurts.
You're being a little disrespectful to Baltimore, but you know what? You're riding it out. You hate playoff Lamar.
He's got to prove it. He's never proved it.
You said it time and time again. I don't think he necessarily. I mean, first of all, he's doing a lot with a little.
Hold on, real quick. I just have the 4 playoff games that the Ravens have played with Lamar Jackson at quarterback. Here are the points: 17, 12, 20, and 3. Those are the points scored in the 4 starts.
All right. Well, I don't know who he played. I don't know the circumstances surrounding those games, so I can't really criticize him for that. I just think Baltimore has too much going for them on defense. I mean, they have guys that are forcing fumbles all over the field. Jadeveon Clowney, Kyle Van Noy. They just got guys that are going to make life a living hell, I think, for these young Texans. We'll see. I mean, look, Baltimore's looked fantastic all year long. I think they're ready for this game.
All right. So we're on different sides there. Green Bay, San Francisco is the night game on Saturday. San Francisco 9.5-point favorites. 50.5 is the total. Listen, if we talked about how impressed we were with the Houston Texans and we talked about the Dallas Cowboys gagging it up, we have to talk about how good the Green Bay Packers were, because Jordan Love, the second half of this season, has been one of the best 7 or 8 quarterbacks in the entire league, throwing it to a bunch of young wide receivers. And this is another team that's in a really good spot moving forward, because they've got young receivers and a young quarterback. And a really, really good coach.
Yeah, I talked earlier about how Jalen Hurts has talent around him and still wasn't able to, lead that team to more than 2 wins in his last 7 games. Jordan Love is saddled with Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Aaron Jones. Like, these guys aren't world beaters by any stretch, but he's making them out to be. I mean, dude, I saw right before we came on the air, it was something like, who would you want as your quarterback for next season? And it was Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, Kirk Cousins, and Dak. And I don't know that Jordan Love's not number 1 on that list right now. And I get it. We just watched him destroy Dallas in Dallas. But I don't know that you can say that it's not Jordan Love right now.
I would still probably take Jalen if we're playing on the same contracts. But Jordan Love Jordan Love just beat Dak. And Dak has a playoff issue. So yeah, I think it's got to be Jordan Love at least number 2 there. And maybe we're being prisoners of the moment. But
yeah, but you got to give him his due. I mean, that's tough to do, to go in there and get a win in AT&T Stadium. Although the Packers have shown in the past it's not as tough as I'm saying. But that was with Aaron Rodgers, the Hall of Fame quarterback. Right. Listen, the Packers are fearless. They're coming off of this momentum, riding a high. But again, just like I just said with the Ravens, we can't forget how good the Niners are. The Niners are really good, man. If Green Bay can keep it close in the first half, then maybe they can catch the 49ers sleeping and potentially sneak out a win. I just don't see it happening. I think they emptied the tank last week. Granted, Dallas didn't put up much resistance, but I think it's one of those things where I often like to say, I'm a believer in the law of averages, where if a Green Bay puts up something like 30-plus points or 40-plus points one week, they're more likely to come back down to earth the next week. And I think that's kind of what's going to happen here. So I have the Niners winning this game kind of easily, 34-20.
I'm right with you. I think this San Francisco team is on a mission. And I think, especially after Dallas gets beat, the Eagles get beat, 2 of the teams that they considered probably their top competition as of 4 weeks ago. I think they see blood, and they're going to be on a war path to get to the Super Bowl and see what happens there, if it's revenge against Baltimore or another team like that. Again, I think the Packers may run out of steam. That may have been enough for them. I got actually 31-17, so we're in the same boat with where we are score-wise. I think San Francisco takes care of business.
Yeah, now, I don't know off the top of my head, the contract situation for the Packers, but I know they have Jordan Love on that rookie deal for at least another 2 or 3 years.
So let me ask you this. You look at a team like the Packers, who have had, Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. And maybe we're being a little presumptuous with Love and everything that he's got going on. But they have taken the model that we used to see a lot more when we were, in high school, where they're drafting these quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers sat for 2 or 3 years behind Brett Favre. Jordan Love sat for 2 years, I think, behind Aaron Rodgers. And they've come out ready to play and been better for it. Do you think teams should start doing this? I know they won't because there's too much money involved, but do you think it's better off for the quarterbacks to sit behind these guys, or is it just a matter of they're just drafting the right players?
In a way, the Eagles did it with Jalen Hurts as well. I think there's something to it 100%. When you're drafted as a rookie quarterback and you're drafted as a rookie quarterback in the top 5 or top 10, that means more often than not, you're going to a situation that's dismal. Right, you're going into a situation where probably the O-line isn't great, or the skilled players around you isn't great because you're going to a losing team. So to throw a guy into the fire like that, it's going to take you're going to have to be the elite to be able to make that work, like a CJ Stroud. You're going to have the pieces around you all come together at the same time. So I think, being able to just kind of sit with the training wheels, hold the clipboard for a year or two, that's absolutely something that benefits a quarterback when you're talking about the toughest position in all of sports.
I agree. I think just getting used to the game speed in practice is another thing that can truly help a quarterback out, and watching film for a year, especially, you're blessed to play behind, Aaron Rodgers. The personality he has may not be, very friendly. I'm not in the locker room, but to watch him be able to play and practice and pick up habits can only be good for you.
Yeah, and I'm just looking up Green Bay's salary cap stuff right now, and they're losing pretty much no one. I mean, they're losing A.J. Dillon.
Yeah, and I mean, all those receivers they have are all on young contracts as well. Like they're
all around for a couple of years. I don't know how much people love some of these guys, but they're all around for at least the next 2 years.
So think about that division and where that's headed. So you have Green Bay, who's in a really good place, Detroit, who's in a really good place. Although I think Goff is up for a contract, if not after this year, after next year. And then you have the Chicago Bears, who the Chicago Bears are going to probably trade Justin Fields, get a good draft pick, and then come up with Caleb Williams most likely to end up, becoming a good team. And they have one of the best defenses in the league in the second half. But shout out to the good old fantasy boys in the chat. What's up, y'all? What's going on, man? Just watched Joel Embiid make a couple big hoops here, Al, to put the Sixers up 8 with about 5 minutes left.
I want to say this, though, because you talked about Caleb Williams going to Chicago. If they do draft him and trade Justin Fields, though, we're talking about that situation, the opposite of what we just said, because they're going to throw him right to the fire. And you're looking at a team that doesn't really have much going for them. I'm sure they have a DJ Moore, but that's really it. The O-line stinks. Is that really going to be beneficial to a guy?
But that's just the way it is now. Like, that's the way teams are doing it now. And they don't have a guy to mentor him, really, right? I mean, They would bring one in that case. You bring in
maybe Flacco.
Yeah, I was going to say Andy Dalton, but we're on the same page there. But we've gotten off course here. Let's jump back on. Tampa Bay, Detroit. We talk about the NFC North teams. Detroit 6.5-point favorites. 48.5 is the total. Detroit, another team that a lot of people thought were going to be ripe to be picking this past week, as a lot of people were on the Rams. Really good football game, maybe the best one of the weekend. But the Lions hold on to beat the Rams there by 3 or by 1. I'm sorry.
And there was a PI. There was a sketchy no PI call in that game, right?
Yeah, a little reminiscent of the Eagles Super Bowl call there at the end. Detroit at home now against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who we obviously saw last night. I'll go first here, Al. This game reminds me a little bit of the Eagles and the Giants from last year, in that you have this Tampa Bay team that won a few games down the stretch, comes out and wins a first-round playoff game rather convincingly against a team that really just wasn't in it. And that was Minnesota last year for the Giants. And now people are starting to talk like, oh, this Tampa team's got momentum. They're playing good. They're playing good. And then they get to the second round game, and it's just that they're outmatched.
Yeah.
I think Detroit built a lot of momentum last week. They're a young team, but they're a hungry team, and they're really, really tough at home on that turf. And I don't see Tampa Bay being able to keep up. I got the Lions big. I got 35-13 Detroit.
We're not too far off. The Lions have a lot that the Eagles don't. They have a great run defense. They have a great balanced offense. They pressure the quarterback. They were 4th in sack percentage this season. I don't really know how Tampa Bay is going to beat them. Tampa Bay basically just played a B team, and now they're going to step up and play actual competition. And I don't see them being able to make that step up. I'm right there with you. I have the Lions winning 31-16.
All right. So we're both on the same page there. All right, let's go to the last game, probably the main event of the weekend. The Chiefs and the Bills will go at it again. The Chiefs knocked the Bills out of the playoffs in 22 and 21. However, the Bills have beaten the Chiefs 3 straight times in the regular season. Feel like we saw some glimpses of Kansas City's offense come back. I know you didn't because you didn't peacock it up.
No, I actually was able to. I won't say how, but I was able to procure the game.
All right. Rashee Rice has really stepped up to be the number one receiver with, 1A, 1B with Travis Kelce. Pacheco is, doing his thing, running really hard. I still think their defense is the most underrated unit in the league. Buffalo, on the other hand, Buffalo is hot, man, right? They've come in hot. They were left for dead. This, to me, feels almost like – I had a really tough time picking this game, but it feels to me very much big brother, little brother, where the Buffalo Bills are the little brother, and every year they build up, and this is the year they're really hot. They're coming in. They're smoking. Josh Allen's protecting the football. He looks great. Kansas City's vulnerable. This is the year you can knock them out. And then all of a sudden, you got all the talent in the world, and you go up against your big brother, and you're just like, why can't I beat this guy? I'm better than him. I have all these things, but I just can't seem to beat him. And I've got Kansas City pulling this one out. I got it 20-19. Again, I think the Chiefs' defense is probably one of the more underrated units left in the playoffs. They're really, really good. I just can't see it for Buffalo. I think they can't get over that hump for whatever reason.
It's Celtics Sixers is what it is. Listen,
yes, that's a good comparison.
Yeah, and the first thing is it's incredible that this is Patrick Mahomes' first road playoff game.
Yeah, I saw that set too.
That's incredible. Almost as incredible as it is that he's only 28. That's incredible. For me, I think that the line being only Buffalo -2.5 is begging for us to put the money on Buffalo, and you know what that means. I'm just looking forward to the next chapter and what's become the best playoff rivalry and probably the best rivalry in the NFL when you talk about, two teams that are just so evenly matched with franchise quarterbacks, dynamic offenses usually from year to year. But as you said, this year, Kansas City's defense is kind of what's holding them together. I think look, I'm on the other side, but I think Buffalo wins a close one based on that line. So I'm taking Kansas City with the points, and I wouldn't be surprised if they won this game outright. But outright, give me the Bills 24-23. I think it's Josh Allen's year, man. I think he's on a mission ever since that overtime loss in Philly. We've seen the best of the best come out as far as the Buffalo Bills is concerned. And I think they take one step closer to get into the Super Bowl.
All right, so there you have it. Listen, a lot of people say this is the best weekend in football all year because you get 4 games, 8 of the best teams in the league. So we will see. I think the wild card weekend left a little bit to be desired. There wasn't really a lot of great football games outside of that Rams game.
Did you know, though, I saw a post that we are 2 weeks away from seeing either Jared Goff or Baker Mayfield in the NFC Championship game. Something that you would have been very, that would have been surprising to say at the beginning of the season or last season.
Don't forget Jared Goff's got a Super Bowl appearance on his resume.
He does.
So
not many points to go along with that Super Bowl.
No, that was one of the worst Super Bowls of all time.
Super Bowl sucked.
That was terrible. All right, anything else to close it out?
No, just looking forward to some good stress-free, not having to worry about how are the Eagles going to mess it up this time football.
All right, before we jump into segment 3, let me do a little Sixers update for you, Al. We got an 8-point lead with 3 minutes to go. Joel's got 40 points and 10 assists. Tobias Harris, though, took over in the third quarter a little bit, Al. He got 24. Maxi's got 23. Jokic 25, 17, and only 3 assists tonight for Joker. So they got to pull this out up 8 with 3 minutes to go and the ball. So we'll talk segment 3 here. But I might be a little bit distracted as Embiid turns the ball over.
Well, while you're watching the game, I'll give our listeners the plug for our SeatGeek $20 off promo code. So yes, we are proud partners with SeatGeek. Make sure you download the app or go to SeatGeek.com for all of your live event needs, whether it's sports, whether it's a comedy show, a magic show, whatever it might be. We have the Royal Rumble at the end of this month, Adam, and we often tease a wrestling segment. The Royal Rumble is not in Philadelphia, but you know what is in Philadelphia this coming April? WrestleMania is coming to Philadelphia, and it's never too early to start planning your trip. Now, it's a 2-day event these days, so you can go either day. But right now on SeatGeek, the cheapest tickets to get in at day one of WrestleMania at Lincoln Financial, they're $230.
Woof.
You're talking about
you
tickets
need to bring binoculars.
dude, that's steep, right? You're going to have to bring the rangefinder, Adam. We're talking about tickets that cost that much. Every penny matters. So use our promo code 3Keystone. It's the number 3 Keystone, all one word. You get $20 off of your first order. So you could put it towards parking. You could put it towards the foam middle finger if Austin's going to be there. I don't know if he is or not. But there you go. There's your SeatGeek deal of the week.
Sounds good to me. It's always good to save a buck or two this day and age. So make sure you're using the code 3Keystone to save that $20. All right, let's get into segment 3 here. For the first time in over 700 days, we've gotten snow.
Yep, more than an inch.
Yeah, more than an inch of snow in the Philadelphia area, and it was time to talk about it. I don't know if you're a teacher, so you may be a lot more pro snow than I am. I'm curious to see, because you were the ones who wanted to bring this up. What are you feeling on snow? Where are you going with this conversation?
So I wanted to open up with is love of snow the most age dependent thing in the world? Like it is literally a graph that just goes like this. With age, you hate it more. Is there anything else that the older you get, the more you hate something, and the younger you are, the more you love it? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Kids?
Listen, I thought candy, but adults still like candy. Now we don't like it as much. We do not love it as much as you are when you were a kid. Right. Because when you're a kid, there's that, you can't have it all the time. You can't just get it when you want it. And then the other one I thought it was staying up late, but like I like staying up late. Like I still like, but I don't really like snow.
Yeah, no, snow is. I've never been a huge snow guy. There's a F the Nuggets channel. I'll just give you an update here before we get into this. The score is still the same now with under a minute to go. Sixers look like they'll pull this one out. We'll see. I'll give you one possession here. Maxey gives it to Embiid, blows by, lays it up and in, and the foul. Game over. All right. Sorry, I'm going to get refocused.
All right, Tavares back in the chat. Tavares, let us know what you think about snow. Where are you at on snow?
And where were you at in the fantasy contest? You and Ern Ivanhoe did not show up.
Yeah, Overbrook was not well represented. It's okay though, because I'm gonna come in 5th. Listen, Adam, as a teacher, there's nothing like a snow day. Especially when it's the day before or even the morning of, I think is even better. You get that call that wakes you up at like 5:30 and you know what it is. Right. But the 2-hour delay call is also exceptional. Like I already have it tomorrow. Like it's phenomenal. I was singing and dancing throughout my house.
So what are you going to do with your morning?
You're just not rushed. I mean, I just don't have to wake up at 6 a.m. I could wake up at 7:30.
What time do you get? Can you monitor your sleep? Like there's people like me who like. I can do it now that I have the kid a little bit more because my schedule's all knocked off. But I'm getting up 6:30 regardless of whether I have work or not before I had this kid.
Well, now that my kids are a little older, I don't have to necessarily wake up with them. You know what I mean? Like, and Jackson and Avery, they've been sleeping later too. So I can get away with waking up at 8 o'clock.
I'm just saying your body allows you to do that?
Yeah, 100%. Million percent. Dude, if I didn't have an alarm and Casey wake me up at 9, I'd still be in bed until 11. It's just my what's it called? Your
biological clock.
Yeah, biological clock, sleep pattern. There's another word for it I can't think of right now. But no, those things are still just two of the greatest joys in life, even when you're an adult.
All right, I made a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 reasons why I hate the snow. Ready?
Okay. Wow, that's a lot.
I hate the snow. First of all, number one, it's cold. The cold sucks.
Yeah, cold's worse than heat.
Cold is terrible. I have a debate with my buddies whether or not they would deal with freezing temperatures with wind or 100% humidity in the summertime. I would take the humidity every day of the week.
I would too. It's getting worse. Like I'm starting to like that less, but I would too.
Yeah, like I don't like the humidity when it's 100. When you walk outside, you start sweating. But when you go out there and it's freezing cold and the wind's blowing in your face, forget about it. It's horrible.
What people that back cold refuse to accept is that when you're talking about heat versus cold, you're talking about discomfort versus pain. I'm taking discomfort over pain every time.
Yep, 100%. I remember the first time when I was at Pitt, and obviously Pittsburgh gets colder than it does in Philadelphia. And it was like 2 in the morning, and we were at a party, so we had been drinking, and I was walking home, and I remember having drank that night, feeling the first time I felt pain due to cold, and I just remember the wind whipping in my face and having just not knowing how to handle it. It was so freezing cold there. Pittsburgh was a rough town. Oh my God, the Sixers are going to blow this game. Never mind. Okay. Number 2, shoveling sucks.
Yep.
So shoveling sucks. I was lucky enough, had a minor procedure done last week, not allowed to lift, had to put it on the wife to take care of the shoveling today, but she said it was a light, fluffy snow out there today, so it wasn't too bad. But again, you have a bad back, I have a bad back. There's nothing worse than shoveling for that.
Absolutely. And today, even though it was I don't know how much you got. We got at least 3 inches. We probably got 3 to 4 inches in Springfield. But I might catch some shit from this, from anybody that's listening that knows us. Casey always shovels, even when my back feels good, which like in the last couple of years, it's been way better than it was before. But she always shovels. She likes it. She likes to shovel.
That's
and listen, dude, I'll let her do it because and I'm not a tit for tat person. That's not how relationships work. But I do the lawn, I mow, I hedge, you know what I do? I do all that stuff. So if she wants to shovel, be my guest. She can shovel. I help out, but she does the bulk of it.
Good for her. Good for her.
We have a snowblower. We don't use it.
Yeah, snowblowers I think are the biggest waste of money.
It wasn't when we lived in Havertown. When we lived in Havertown, we needed it because we did our entire driveway and the walkway, and we had an elderly neighbor that we did her walkway. So back in Havertown, it was 100% necessary.
How much is a snowblower?
I think it ran us maybe $250, $300.
That's not too bad. I thought they were more like $600 or $700.
It got us through. There was that really bad winter, like 2015, I want to say maybe. It got us through that winter.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, you're investing that type of money, but you may not even use it for 3 years.
Yeah, no, we haven't used it since we moved to Springfield. I got to put it on Facebook Marketplace. Diversa, if you want to buy it, you can come get it, dude. I'll give it to you for free.
There you go. It's like a lottery going on in here. Next thing, driving sucks. The driving in the snow also terrible. I also have in there, we tied in cleaning off your car in the morning. Yep. Having to walk out, being ready to leave, and then realizing you have to clean off your entire car. Terrible. But you get on the roads and listen, I don't want to sound like an old person, but driving in these slippery, icy conditions it's scary, man.
Yeah. And I drive up and down a lot of big hills getting to and from work. And I've seen some accidents in the snowy weather, and it's unavoidable. It's no one's fault.
Yeah, no. And listen, it only takes hydroplaning once for you to be a little nervous forever.
Yeah.
All right. I had that. I had walking in the snow sucks.
Yeah, you got to walk like a penguin. You
got to walk. And then if you're going to work, you probably have work shoes on. Your socks are getting wet. Your shoes are getting wet. Then you're dragging it in the building. The floor is wet. Our buddy Chris, he used to say we're not going to bars because the floors were wet, and he was scared he was going to slip and fall.
He also used not go to bars because they had cover charges.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know which one's more reasonable. But walking in the snow sucks. And then especially as the snow starts to melt, you get that slushy snow.
Yeah, you get the worst is when you get the gray. Everything is just gray everywhere.
And it gets compact.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrible. Golf guys not golfing sucks.
Yep.
The mud after it melts. I don't know about you, but my backyard gets destroyed with mud after it melts. And then I have the dogs, and the dogs just bring the mud in the house. Terrible. Sledding, overrated.
Nah, I like sledding.
Sledding, no, because you going down the hill is nice, but then you got to come all the way back up the hill.
Yeah, but it gives you a little workout. It's a little 2-for-1 deal when you're our age.
Terrible.
You'll like it more when Hayden grows up.
Yeah, I'll push because I'll be at the top of the hill just pushing him down, not having to walk back up.
We have a pretty big hill. I should have went today actually with the kids, but I didn't because they were just playing with the neighborhood kids. But there's a big hill at the library about a half mile away that all the kids in the neighborhood go to. It's just chaos.
Yeah,
But like
fine.
as a kid, it's a beautiful thing.
As a kid, it's fine, but it's just like it's a lot, man. It's not worth the the walk back up. I don't think.
Yeah. Where'd you sled? Did you just sled at the hill when you were?
Yeah, the hill.
Yeah, that's not a good enough hill to really get your rocks off on sledding. We had
Yeah.
Cobb's Creek. We used to go to Cobb's Creek. There's a big
what hole?
the one on Karakung, the one that goes like it's like a dog leg and then it goes down and there's like the creek goes over. It's like it's the back 9. It's like 12 maybe.
Gotcha. I don't remember.
It's a dog leg right. So you hit it down the hill and then the hill continues down to the
Oh
right.
yes. I think it's the
go
9th hole actually.
Yeah.
Par 5.
Yeah, so we'd go down that hill and then make the turn and then almost like we get as close to the creek as we could.
Right. I'm with you. The last thing I have is a good one, and I think it's something that's underrated. I've been on both sides of it, but living on the right side of the street is extremely important. So on Valley Ave, we were on the side of the street where the sun did not hit our house. Now I have the sun hitting my house. And the pace and rate of which your snow melts is dramatically different.
Yeah, we're on the right side too, but I don't reap the benefits of it because I leave before the sun comes up. So it doesn't really matter as far as the car goes.
Yeah, not as your car goes, but you know what? Like sometimes you'll get like that coating of snow or that inch of snow in like the early morning, and you don't even have to shovel it because the sun comes out later that day and just takes it away.
See, I think that so the sun shines on the front of our house from the morning to the noon, but our house is down so the houses across the street from us are like up a hill. So we don't get all of the sunlight.
Gotcha.
You get what I'm saying? So we actually get the sun on the back of our house for way longer than we do in the front of our house. So it doesn't really make a difference for us.
Gotcha.
But I do know that is a big thing for people like yourself that get it in the front.
Yeah. So I know you wanted to debate something about parking spaces.
Yeah. So where do you stand on this? Because I'm sure you had this in Roxborough. I'm sure that your parents went through this. Are you for or against the Philadelphia tradition of saving a parking spot in front of your house that you shoveled out by putting a chair in the spot or a bucket or a cone or anything as if to say, hey, I shoveled this spot out. It's mine, even though technically it is public property.
I thought long and hard about it because I see both sides to this. Shoveling out your spot when there's not a lot of parking on your street is a big deal. Obviously, you grew up in Overbrook, you know the struggle as well. I am not a proponent of putting a chair or something in that nature in play. I don't think that's the right way to do it. However, if you are not parking in your own driveway or going into your shoveling out a spot for yourself first and just jumping in other people's spots, that's a violation.
Yeah.
If you are if I'm going to visit my grandma in Roxborough now and I have to park in somebody else's spot, that's the way it is. But you always have to go to your spots first and you have to shovel out your own spot.
Diverse in the chat's accusing you of being a shoveled spot stealer.
Nah, I mean, my dad, the thing was, we were in front of a fire hydrant.
Yeah, I remember that.
So we were able to park there. We only got tickets very once in a while. Really rare, actually. So a lot of people didn't want to park in front of our house because of the fire hydrant. So that was almost like a bonus.
Okay.
And we also had, grandma lives down the street, had a driveway, and she didn't drive.
So you could park there anytime.
So we could throw it there as well. So no, we didn't snag a lot of spots. But listen, I respect the effort it takes to dig out a spot. It's not easy.
Yeah. So in Overbrook, 100%, the chair was in the spot every time we shoveled it out. We only had 2 cars. We had my dad's truck and my mom's car. My mom didn't drive, so it ended up being my car once I got my license. But we did always park one car in the back alley underneath the deck, and then we had one car in front of our house in the front. When I lived in Havertown prior to moving to Springfield, so this was as recently as 5 years ago, you bet your ass I put a chair in that spot when I shoveled it out, because that street that I lived on was brutal. It was a one-way street. You could only park on one side of the street, and we lived in a twin. And every set of twins, so every 2 houses only had 2 spots in front of their respective houses, one each. So if you had a house that potentially had 3 cars because they had 3 drivers in the house, now all of a sudden they're setting everything off. But one of the biggest anxiety building moments for me every day coming home from work was coming around that corner. If a car was in my spot in front of my house that didn't belong there, snow or not, I was pissed.
So what are you gonna do if somebody moves your chair?
What are you gonna do? Oh, that well then. So I'll tell you what I did do one time. So one time, someone parked in front of my house, and they parked right in the middle, so I couldn't park behind or in front of them. So what I did was I parked my car in front of them, right up against their bumper, where I was blocking my own driveway. And then it was right after we demoed our kitchen, and I had all this heavy ass wood and all this other stuff. This is so petty. I put these huge trash cans full of all this heavy wood right behind their other bumper, so they couldn't get out. I just left it there.
You're lucky you did that to the right guy.
That's how petty I am.
Thinking that wouldn't smash your car.
No, because listen, let me ask you. Now, this is going off the rails a little bit, but let me ask you this: there's clearly 2 spots in front of these houses. It's a clear 2 spots. What level of a-hole are you to park in the middle of the 2 spots?
Yeah, no, that's a huge,
massive violation. Massive.
It drives me nuts, especially if you go down a shore. You see it a lot too,
Mm-hmm.
where you can clearly fit 2 cars in one spot, and somebody just decided to throw it in the middle. That's a monster violation as well.
But listen, getting back to where I live now, I won't do it. I don't have to do it.
Right.
So we can park on both sides of the street on this street. My neighbors, while they have 3 kids, one's at college, but there's 4 cars, but we're cool with them. We're like, we can say, hey, let's put the cars in the driveway in such a way because we share the driveway, but we can put up to 5 cars in the driveway if we block, you know what I mean? Each other in, because we know, hey, this person has to get out first, then this person, then this person. So it's not an issue here. I don't see it becoming an issue here. But would I do it if it did become an issue? Yeah, I'd put a chair out there.
Fair enough. Now listen, we have 2 spots in our driveway and 2 cars, so it's pretty straightforward for us now. But listen, I hear you. Like you put forth the effort, you deserve the spot.
Yeah.
I'm just not a put a chair out there guy. I don't know if I believe in that, but to each his own.
Now, let me ask you this. You didn't have this on list of things you hated. As a kid, I hated nothing more than getting whitewashed. Do you remember? Did you ever whitewash each other? That was the worst thing.
You can't let that happen. You can't let that happen.
I was the little guy. I was the young guy on the block. So it didn't matter if I wanted to let it happen or not. It was happening.
You know what else was terrible? When you would go out in the snow and then you come in and your fingers would thaw out. You remember the pain of your fingers thawing out?
Yeah.
That was tough, dude.
So I get my hands get cold pretty quick, but then they warm up pretty quick.
I haven't had the thaw out feeling it since I was a kid. I don't know why I haven't. I guess maybe I'm not out there as long anymore. But yeah, so that's not fun.
Yeah, no, for me it's always been my toes and my ears. My toes.
You wear what kind of jacket so here's now we're getting off the rails a little bit. But like tomorrow, I have a work dinner in New York City, right? So I'm going to be wearing a sport coat. Do you wear like a long jacket on top of that? Is that what you go to?
You could go with the pea coat kind of look.
Because you have to, because what else? You can't wear a coat over a coat.
Yeah, but listen, if it's not active, there's no active precipitation. If you're wearing a suit, I would just wear the suit. Yeah,
but I'm saying it's in New York New York City tomorrow night. It's going to be like 12 degrees.
Yeah, I get that, but
we're walking.
How far is this walk?
10-minute walk.
Yeah, you might want to go pea coat.
Yeah, I think you have to.
Yeah,
I didn't have one for a while. I had to get one just for that situation.
Yeah. I don't have one right now. Actually, I only have like the winter of the bubble coat.
But I agree with you. I will, if any other time calls for it, I'll just wear the sport coat, and that's it. And you just suck it up and you deal with it. But yeah, the coat over the coat is always tough.
It's another terrible thing about the winter that you mentioned. Winter coats, when you wear them, you always seem to get an itch on your back, and you can't scratch it because you're just scratching this thick fabric. And then driving, you got to take the winter coat off when you drive. You can't drive in a winter coat, man. You're 100%. Sweating your ass off.
Dude, so today, we're getting way off track here.
Are we, though? I don't think there was a track to begin with.
I don't know. We're just shooting. So Megan said that she would shovel this morning. So I kind of felt bad about it. So I threw like some Under Armour on underneath and went out there and just did the cars. And I kept the Under Armour on because I went back in. I started working remote. Hayden got sick this morning. So he was sniffling last night, Ended up he had some diarrhea today, and Megan was like, "Let's just go to the pediatrician just to make sure everything's all right." And everything is fine. Dude, I didn't take the Under Armour off. I was in that office and they shut the door. It was 120 degrees. I have never been in a situation where I felt like I was going to pass out more than that thing. I said to Megan, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I got to get out of here. It was brutal.
Dude, the Under Armour, the heat gear doesn't play around. I got a turtleneck that's like fantastic when I'm outside, but as soon as I come inside, that thing's got to come right off.
Yeah, dude, I mean, it's great material. I've had my Under Armour things for 15 years, and they're still awesome.
Yeah, you a leggings guy?
If I'm playing golf and it's cold out, I'll put the leggings on.
Yeah,
I won't do it to shovel.
No,
But,
I will do the long johns.
You're a long johns guy.
To be out in the snow, absolutely.
My mom was a big long johns guy. She's put some long johns all the time.
Yeah.
I
My
would
mom
go with the tights before the long johns now.
My mom always used to push long johns too. When I was a kid, I never wanted to wear them.
You do the tights? You do tights at all or no?
I will do tights now.
Do you put the underwear under the tights or you
No,
do
no
underwear?
The tights are your underwear.
Yes, agreed. I agree with that.
Yeah, you can't do no.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure we were on the same page there.
Yeah.
A lot of tips for you guys out there if you're listening to what's going on. You know what else? Real quick. My wife also brought to my life. You ever used a push shovel?
No.
So this is a shovel. You can't lift the snow with it because of the angle it's on, but you push. Way more efficient than a lifting shovel.
All right.
But you gotta have a smooth surface because sometimes you're pushing and you hit a bump and the thing will jab back into you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. My walkway is not smooth. It's a little bumpy.
But the push shovel, it's definitely something that it's a plus. It's definitely something you should get.
So one more thing before we wrap this up. I think there's 4 games that every kid played. Well, maybe not every kid, but 4 games that I played as a kid in the snow. And I want to just give me a quick ranking. So we got King of the Mountain.
Sure.
Your good old fashioned snowball fight.
Yep.
Football.
Yep.
And a Royal Rumble. You have to have access to like some kind of wall. Now that's where
I don't know if I ever played Royal Rumble.
So we had the I've knowns, Ernie. We had his little wall that came up about 3 feet, and it was perfect. It was perfect for Royal Rumble. You would just dump each other over that wall. So you can exclude that one. But between football, snowball fights, and King of the Mountain, give me your start, bench, and cut.
Cut is definitely snowball fight. Because first of all, I hated making the snowballs with gloves on. And then we get back to your hands being cold. You want to make a nice compact snowball, you got to use your bare hands. You got to throw it. And half the time you're not hitting people, you're just running around. Snowball fights cut. I'm willing to – here's my thing about football. I think snow football is best, but only if you're playing playing while it's snowing. I think just playing it while there's snow on the ground is kind of whatever to me. So I'm going to go – I'll still start football, but with the caveat that it's actually snow is coming down as you're playing. And then we'll go King of the Mountain's a classic, though.
Yeah, but that also, the hill is a great King of the Mountain hill.
Great King of the Mountain hill.
Yeah. I mean, for the listeners that don't know of the hill, it's this – how wide would you say that hill is? I mean, that hill is probably like, what, 20 yards wide?
Nah, I would say probably closer to 25, 30. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, that's a massive amount of space that if you're the king, you got to try and keep up with.
Yeah, no doubt.
For us, it was – oh, go ahead.
When we were younger, like Ludus was always a year and a half older than us. And
is he
like,
not
the difference
anymore?
when you're like almost 15 and 13, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
And especially because he was a big dude to begin with. He would just dominate.
So we didn't have a hill, obviously. We were in the alleyway, and we would just have to create our hill out of snow if we wanted to play King of the Mountain. So that wasn't really a fun game for us. So I would definitely cut King of the Mountain. Snowball fights would get the bench, and then football. I agree that if it's actively snowing, it makes the game so much better. But I'm taking snow football either way because again, on the hill you had grass, you could play tackle football all year round. We couldn't. We could only play tackle football when it snowed where I grew up. And then one of my best memories
to play it on cement, even if there's snow.
It didn't matter for us. That was like it could be 1 inch on the ground, and we were out there playing tackle. But one of my favorite memories at Penn State was my freshman year. We had this huge blizzard in October, actually. It was right at the end of October. It was like a foot and a half of snow and playing just this huge football game outside while it was snowing, going in the dorms and having a snowball fight in the dorms. Like just your good old-fashioned fun.
Yeah. There was definitely a lot of good snow memories as a kid, but now it's terrible.
Yeah, again, if anybody listening knows of something that, again, you love as a kid and you end up just hating it more and more and more as you get older and older. I don't know what else it is. So please shout it out, DM us or send us a message. I want to know.
All right. But listen, we got to make a deal. Well, I don't think – I was going to say we can't talk about the Eagles in segment 1 next week, but if they fire Sirianni, we might have to.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
All right. No promises. We're going to do our best to be a little bit more positive, but I'm glad we don't have to talk about any more Eagles games for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So
that was definitely ran its course.
And shout out Joel Embiid tonight. You want to I'll give him a final line here for you, Al. Sixers win by 5, 126-121, 41, 7, and 10 for Joel Embiid. And Jokic had 25, 19, and 3. So good games for both, but the Sixers get the win tonight.
7 assists or 7 boards?
7 boards, the streak ended.
Okay. All right.
But good for him dropping 10 dimes on Jokic.
Yeah, dude. That's a hell of a game.
So go Sixers. A lot more Sixers talk to come. But until then, we're going to drop that beat.